Breaking. Man United's £60 million Sesko chances massively improved after Arsenal news. Imagine waking up to find out that your biggest rival just handed you the perfect opportunity to sign one of Europe's hottest strikers. Well, that's exactly what happened to Manchester United this morning when Arsenal decided to pull out of the Benjamin Sesko race. But wait, there's more drama brewing at Old Trafford. While United are celebrating this unexpected Sesko opportunity, another story is developing that has fans talking. Alejandro Garnacho, once seen as the future of United's attack, is now training alone and reportedly wants out. Chelsea are watching closely, and the numbers being discussed might shock you. Welcome to another chaotic day in the world of Manchester United transfers. Buckle up, because this story has everything: unexpected opportunities, player rebellions, potential swap deals, and even some legal trouble thrown in for good measure. The Sesko opportunity that fell into United's lap. Let's start with the good news, shall we? Benjamin Sesko, the 22-year-old Slovenian striker who has been setting the Bundesliga on fire, is suddenly much more available to Manchester United than anyone expected. Why? Because Arsenal, who were leading the race for his signature, have decided to focus all their efforts on signing Viktor Gyökeres instead. Remember Gyökeres? He was one of United's original targets before Arsenal swooped in. So now we have this interesting chain reaction. United wanted Gyökeres, Arsenal got him, but in doing so, Arsenal left the door wide open for United to get Sesko. Sometimes football works in mysterious ways, doesn't it? But here's where it gets really interesting. United aren't just lucky bystanders in this situation. They have a secret weapon that could make all the difference. The Christopher Vivel connection. Meet Christopher Vivel, United's head of scouting. This name might not mean much to casual fans, but in the world of football transfers, connections matter more than you might think. Vivel used to work for RB Leipzig. Yes, the same RB Leipzig that currently owns Benjamin Sesko. And here's the kicker: Vivel has been tracking Sesko since April. He was even spotted at the Leipzig vs Wolfsburg match, personally scouting the young striker. Think about what this means. Vivel knows exactly what kind of player Sesko is. He knows his strengths, his weaknesses, and most importantly, he knows the Leipzig system inside and out. When United's transfer team sits down to discuss Sesko, they're not going in blind. This isn't just another random transfer target. This is a calculated move by someone who has inside knowledge of both the player and the selling club. The numbers that tell Sesko's story. Let's talk about why Sesko is worth all this attention. Numbers don't lie, and Sesko's numbers from last season are absolutely stunning. 13 goals in the Bundesliga. 21 goals in all competitions. A goal every 155 minutes across all competitions. For a 22-year-old striker playing in one of Europe's toughest leagues, these are remarkable statistics. But here's what makes it even more impressive. Let's compare Sesko's goal output to United's current attackers from last season. Bruno Fernandes, United's top scorer, managed 8 league goals. Amad Diallo also got 8. Alejandro Garnacho managed 6. Rasmus Højlund, United's supposed main striker, could only manage 4 league goals. Sesko scored more league goals than any United player last season. And he did it while playing for a team that doesn't create as many chances as Manchester United typically do. The goal frequency tells an even more interesting story. Sesko scored a goal every 155 minutes. Højlund needed 332 minutes for each goal. Joshua Zirkzee needed 322 minutes. Can you see the difference? Sesko is almost twice as clinical as United's current strikers. Why Leipzig will sell. Now, you might be wondering why RB Leipzig would want to sell their best striker. The answer is simple: they need the money. According to transfer expert Christian Falk, Leipzig have set themselves a target of bringing in over £86 million from player sales this summer. That's a lot of money, and they only have 2 players who can generate that kind of cash. One is Xavi Simons, the talented Dutch midfielder. The other is Benjamin Sesko. Here's the thing about financial pressure in football: it often works in favor of the buying club. When a team needs to sell, they become more reasonable with their asking price. They can't afford to hold out for unrealistic fees. Leipzig are asking for around £60.6 million for Sesko. That's a significant amount, but it's not crazy money in today's market. Compare it to what other clubs are asking for strikers of similar quality, and it actually starts to look like decent value. Plus, Sesko apparently loves the Premier League and is ready to make that step up. When a player wants to move to a specific league, it makes negotiations much easier. The Garnacho situation gets messy. While the Sesko story is developing nicely for United, the Alejandro Garnacho situation is becoming a proper mess. And when we say mess, we mean it in every possible way. Let's start with what happened. Garnacho was dropped from United's final game of last season after criticizing manager Ruben Amorim. The criticism came after Garnacho's substitute appearance in the Europa League final defeat to Spurs. But it wasn't just a quiet word in the manager's office. According to reports, Amorim told Garnacho to find a new club in front of the entire squad. Imagine being called out like that in front of all your teammates. Now Garnacho finds himself in what's being called United's bomb squad. A group of players who train separately from the main team and only use the facilities after 5 p.m. when everyone else has gone home. The other members of this unfortunate group? Marcus Rashford, Anthony, Jadon Sancho, and Tyrell Malacia. Not exactly the company you want to be keeping if you're trying to rebuild your career. Chelsea circle like vultures. Where there's chaos at one club, there's usually opportunity for another. Chelsea have been watching the Garnacho situation closely, and they like what they see. Why wouldn't they? Garnacho is a talented young winger who came through United's academy. He has nearly 150 senior appearances despite being just 20 years old. In normal circumstances, United would never consider selling him. But these aren't normal circumstances, are they? Reports suggest that United have slashed their asking price for Garnacho from £70 million to just £40 million. That's a massive reduction that shows how desperate United are to move him on. For Chelsea, this represents incredible value. They're getting a proven Premier League player at almost half price because of United's internal drama. Fabrizio Romano has confirmed that Garnacho wants a Premier League move, and Chelsea remain attentive to his situation. The pieces are falling into place for what could be a very painful transfer for United fans. The swap deal that could benefit everyone. But here's where things get really interesting. Rather than just losing Garnacho for cash, United might be able to turn this situation into something positive. Reports suggest that United are considering a swap deal involving Garnacho and Chelsea striker Nicholas Jackson. On paper, this makes sense for both clubs. Chelsea have already signed Liam Delap and João Pedro to play striker. They don't really need Jackson anymore. United, meanwhile, are desperate for a proven goal scorer. Jackson has scored 24 Premier League goals in 2 seasons since joining Chelsea. That's exactly the kind of consistency United need up front. The finances could work too. Chelsea reportedly value Jackson at £100 million, while United want £40 million for Garnacho. A compromise somewhere in the middle could satisfy both clubs. But would Jackson want to move to United? And would United fans accept losing Garnacho in exchange for a player who has been criticized by Chelsea supporters? These are the questions that will determine whether this deal happens or not. The legal trouble that nobody saw coming. Just when you thought the Garnacho story couldn't get any more complicated, another twist has emerged. And this one has nothing to do with football. Garnacho was reportedly spotted driving an untaxed vehicle to United's training ground. According to the UK government's MOT registry, the tax on his car was due on October 1, 2024, but was never paid. Now, this might seem like a minor issue, but driving an untaxed vehicle on public roads is illegal in the UK. The potential punishment? A £30 fine plus 1.5 times the outstanding tax amount. If the case goes to court, the penalty could be £1,000 or 5 times the amount of tax owed, whichever is greater. It's a small issue in the grand scheme of things, but it adds another layer of drama to an already complicated situation. When you're already on thin ice with your manager, the last thing you need is negative publicity about breaking the law. What this means for United's transfer strategy. Let's step back and look at the bigger picture. What do these developments tell us about United's approach to the transfer market? First, they're being opportunistic. The Sesko situation shows that United are ready to pounce when unexpected opportunities arise. They didn't create Arsenal's decision to focus on Gyökeres, but their position to benefit from it. Second, they're being ruthless with players who don't fit the new system. The Garnacho situation might seem harsh, but it sends a clear message to the squad about what happens when you publicly criticize the manager. Third, they're being creative with deals. The potential Jackson-Garnacho swap shows that United are thinking beyond simple cash transactions. In a market where everyone needs to be careful about financial fair play rules, these kinds of deals make increasing sense. The Sesko versus current strikers debate. Let's dig deeper into why Sesko would be such an upgrade for United's attack. The statistics we mentioned earlier only tell part of the story. Sesko isn't just about goals. He's about the complete striker package. At 6 feet 5 inches, he provides the physical presence that United have been missing. He can hold up play, bring others into the game, and create space for the attacking midfielders. Compare this to Rasmus Højlund, who has struggled to impose himself physically in the Premier League, or Joshua Zirkzee, who is more of a creative forward than a pure goalscorer. Sesko also has something that can't be taught: natural finishing ability. His goal against Germany in the European Championships showed that he can perform on the biggest stage. His consistency for Leipzig showed that it wasn't just a one-off moment of brilliance. But perhaps most importantly, Sesko has the mentality of a winner. Despite his young age, he's already proven himself in the Champions League and international football. These are the kinds of experiences that prepare players for the pressure of playing for Manchester United. The financial reality check. Let's talk about the money involved in all of this. United are looking at potentially spending £60.6 million on Sesko while receiving around £40 million for Garnacho. If the Jackson swap happens, the numbers become more complicated. But here's the key question: is this good business for United? On one hand, they're losing a homegrown talent who could have been the future of their attack. Garnacho came through their academy, which means his sale represents pure profit under financial fair play rules. On the other hand, they're getting a proven striker who could solve their goal-scoring problems immediately. In a market where proven Premier League strikers cost £80 to £100 million, getting someone of Sesko's quality for £60 million might actually be good value. The Jackson element adds another layer. If United can get a striker who has already scored 24 Premier League goals while only paying the difference between his value and Garnacho's, that could be incredibly smart business. What Amorim really wants. All of these moves need to be understood in the context of what Ruben Amorim is trying to build at Manchester United. Amorim's system requires players who are completely committed to the team concept. Individual brilliance is great, but only if it serves the collective good. Players who put their own interests above the team's don't fit this model. The Garnacho situation, harsh as it might seem, sends a clear message about Amorim's standards. No player, regardless of talent or potential, is bigger than the team or the manager. Sesko, by contrast, represents exactly the kind of player Amorim wants. Young, hungry, and willing to work for the team. His performances for Slovenia show that he understands how to play within a system while still being decisive in key moments. The domino effect on other transfers. These moves don't happen in isolation. If United sign Sesko and sell Garnacho, it creates ripple effects throughout their transfer strategy. For example, signing Sesko might reduce the urgency around other striker targets. The Kolo Muani situation we discussed earlier becomes less critical if United have already solved their goal-scoring problem. Selling Garnacho also opens up space in the squad for other wingers. United have been linked with several attacking options, and moving Garnacho on would make room for new signings. The potential Jackson swap could also impact United's approach to other striker targets. If they get Jackson as part of the Garnacho deal, they might not need to spend big money on another forward. Fan reactions and expectations. How are United fans supposed to feel about all of this? It's a complicated situation that will likely divide opinion. On the positive side, signing Sesko would represent exactly the kind of smart, forward-thinking recruitment that fans have been demanding. Getting a 22-year-old striker with his goal-scoring record would be a statement of intent. But losing Garnacho will hurt. Academy graduates have a special place in United fans' hearts, and seeing one leave under these circumstances won't be easy to accept. The key will be how these moves work out on the pitch. If Sesko comes in and scores 20-plus goals in his first season, fans will quickly forget about Garnacho. But if he struggles to adapt to the Premier League, every goal Garnacho scores for Chelsea will be painful to watch. The international dimension. There's also an interesting international angle to consider. Sesko plays for Slovenia, a smaller footballing nation where he's already established himself as the main star. This could work in United's favor in several ways. First, there's less competition for places in the Slovenia national team, which means Sesko is almost guaranteed regular international football. This keeps him sharp and motivated. Second, Slovenia's style of play is quite direct and physical, which should help Sesko adapt to the Premier League more quickly than players coming from more technical leagues. Third, being the main man for his country at such a young age shows that Sesko can handle pressure and expectation. This mental strength will be crucial at Manchester United. The academy question. Losing Garnacho raises broader questions about United's academy and their commitment to developing young talent. United's academy has produced some incredible players over the years. Marcus Rashford, Mason Greenwood, and Scott McTominay are all recent examples of academy graduates who made it to the first team. Garnacho was supposed to be the next success story. Seeing him leave, especially under these circumstances, might make other young players think twice about their futures at the club. But maybe that's not entirely bad. If the message is that everyone, regardless of background, has to meet the same professional standards, it could actually improve the mentality throughout the academy system. The European competition factor. One thing that might influence these transfers is United's European competition status. Currently, United are in the Europa League rather than the Champions League. For a player like Sesko, this might actually be seen as an opportunity rather than a problem. He would be almost guaranteed European football, and the Europa League could provide the perfect platform for him to establish himself before stepping up to Champions League level. For Garnacho, the lack of Champions League football might be one of the factors driving his desire to leave. Chelsea, after all, are likely to be in the Champions League next season. The manager's long-term vision. All of these moves need to be seen as part of Amorim's long-term plan for Manchester United. He's not just thinking about next season. He's building something that can compete at the highest level for years to come. Sesko fits perfectly into this vision. At 22, he could be United's main striker for the next 8 to 10 years. That's the kind of signing that builds foundations for sustained success. The Garnacho situation, difficult as it is, also fits this long-term thinking. Amorim is establishing standards that will define his entire tenure at the club. Players who don't meet these standards, regardless of talent, won't be part of his project. The competition analysis. It's also worth considering how these moves affect United's competition with other top clubs. Signing Sesko would be a real statement to Arsenal, who chose Gyökeres instead. If Sesko outperforms Gyökeres in the Premier League, it would show that United's scouting and decision-making is improving. Losing Garnacho to Chelsea, however, would be more painful. Seeing a former academy star succeed at a direct rival is never easy to accept. The key is ensuring that the overall impact of these moves strengthens United's position relative to their competitors. What happens next? So where do we go from here? The next few weeks will be crucial in determining how these stories develop. For Sesko, the ball is largely in United's court. Arsenal's withdrawal has created the opportunity. Now United need to decide if they want to take it. The £60 million asking price is significant, but not unreasonable for a player of his quality and potential. The Garnacho situation is more complex. Chelsea's interest is clear, but they need to make room in their squad first. The potential Jackson swap adds another layer of complexity that could take time to resolve. What's certain is that United are at a crossroads. The decisions they make in the next few weeks will define their transfer window and potentially their season. The broader transfer market context. These moves are happening against the backdrop of an increasingly complex transfer market. Financial fair play rules are forcing clubs to be more creative with their deals. Pure cash transactions are becoming less common as clubs look for ways to balance their books. The potential Garnacho-Jackson swap is a perfect example of this trend. Rather than two separate transfers that would impact both clubs' FFP calculations, A swap deal allows both clubs to get what they need while managing their financial obligations. This is the new reality of football transfers, and United appear to be adapting to it well. Final thoughts. What a day it's been for Manchester United transfer news. From the unexpected Sesko opportunity to the ongoing Garnacho drama, there's been enough twists and turns to keep any transfer fan entertained. The Sesko situation represents everything United fans want to see from their club's transfer strategy. Smart scouting, good connections, and the ability to capitalize on unexpected opportunities. If they can get this deal over the line, it would show that the new regime at Old Trafford is learning how to operate in the modern transfer market. The Garnacho situation is more painful, but it might be necessary. Sometimes tough decisions have to be made to establish the right culture at a football club. If Amorim's hardline approach leads to better discipline and commitment throughout the squad, losing Garnacho might be worth it in the long run. The potential Jackson swap adds an interesting dimension that could benefit both clubs. United get a proven Premier League striker, Chelsea get a talented young winger, and both clubs manage their financial obligations effectively. As for the legal trouble surrounding Garnacho's untaxed car, well, that's just the kind of bizarre subplot that makes football transfers so unpredictable. What's clear is that United are being proactive rather than reactive in this transfer window. They're not just responding to problems, they're creating opportunities and making tough decisions to build for the future. The next few weeks will tell us whether these bold moves pay off. But for now, United fans can at least feel that their club is thinking strategically about how to compete at the highest level. And in a transfer market full of uncertainty and drama, that's probably the best any fan can hope for.